Yeah, of course. So my name's Elliott Prescott. I started Merchant Tailors in the year 2000. I left in 2007 after going to, up through GCSEs, through AS and A levels at Crosby. And then from there, I then moved down to London. I started at Kingston University on a construction engineering degree. I was there for a year before I had the opportunity to then go and study abroad over in Los Angeles. So I then spent the next 2 years in Los Angeles at California State University, Long Beach, studying there, which was awful, as you can imagine. And then I actually did a sandwich year in Los Angeles as well. So I worked in industry, civil engineering company in Newport Beach. So I was there for an extra year. So came back to the UK in late 2011, early 2012. I then realized that potentially engineering wasn't the path that I wanted to take. So I was lucky enough to have an introduction into finance. So in 2014, I started working for Societe Generale, Hambros Private Bank, which is based in St. James's Square in London. They have offices across the Channel Islands, Gibraltar, regional offices across the UK, and also the head office of Societe Generale, which is in Paris. So I was with SocGen until 2018. During my time at SocGen, I was able to initially start as a commercial executive, so an internal strategist for the bank, looking at the processes, the procedures, what affected the bottom line of the bank itself, and how we look to better that, how we look to make the bank more efficient and increase its revenue as well. From there, I moved into an initiative called Customer Excellence, and that was working directly with the clients of the bank. And in that role, I was able to work across all of the offices, and that was before I moved into the front office, where my skill set lay. And I then moved on to complete all of my financial exams until 2018, where I was then headhunted from a company, or a bank, sorry, in Dubai, called Nedbank Private Wealth, which is a South African bank, but it's actually a UK offshore private bank based out of the Isle of Man. We have offices in London, the Isle of Man, Jersey, Guernsey, and also the representative office here in Dubai. From Dubai, I actually cover the GCC region personally, working with private families, private individuals, institutions, and that's across the whole of the GCC region. From this office, we also cover Australasia, the Far East as well. We are US FATCA compliant, so we have US clients as well, and clients across Europe. So what my real what I'm really trying to do here is drive the growth of the private bank, make it more of a household name across the region, through driving forward its exposure and also its visibility. So yeah, and that's where I sit today. So I'm here in Dubai at the moment. It's a fantastic platform to be able to work off. It's a bit of a bottleneck of wealth, being a major hub for transit. Obviously, there is the attraction of the 0% income tax. Also, it's a fantastic lifestyle, but we are a little bit of a gateway to a lot of emerging economies. India, Pakistan, Northern Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and then also we have that reach over to the Far East as well. So my personal book of clients, I would say, is about 85% expats. In fact, the makeup of Dubai is around 85 to 90% expats. The local demographic only making up around 10% of that. So it's probably one of the most cosmopolitan, if not the most cosmopolitan places to live in the world. You know, and with that comes a lot of opportunity. If you want to take it, a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity as well amongst the people that live here. No one, you know, is born here. No one dies here. Everyone's here, you know, to make a book, as it were, and you know, to really better themselves and push themselves into the direction that they, you know, that they're wanting to go into. So, you know, with that, it makes it a great place to be able to do business. And during the COVID crisis, Dubai came out of the lockdown very quickly. They acted very swiftly. I'm sure everybody saw on the news how they implemented the lockdown, and there were drones on the streets, you know, spraying, you know, the roads down and disinfecting and so on and so forth. And they quickly realized that it was having an awful effect on the economy. So they had to turn it around very quickly, you know, putting the correct deterrents in place, but also opening up to the rest of the world. So by Christmas time, it was open. People could travel here, and you know, people have been able to see, you know, what the lifestyle is like here, and you know, and that optimistic air in the air, as it were, and yeah, for that reason, there's a lot of international investment now pouring into Dubai. Dubai is now aligning itself with the rest of the world. You'll have probably seen most recently on the 1st of January 2022, they've now changed the work week from what was Sunday to Thursday to Monday to Friday, which gives us an extra 20% in the markets, which is great. There's also some very kind of forward-thinking regulations that have been passed over the past 18 months. 2 years, which is again making it more attractive to international investment and people moving here and people living here. There's now the golden visa, which is 10-year visa. So they're really trying to drive forward, increasing the population and the investment within the United Arab Emirates. So yeah, I mean, Lisa, that's, if that's okay, that's a bit of in a nutshell what I do. If you want to drill down into anything deeper, that would be absolutely fine.
Great, thank you so much. And as mentioned, any questions that you think of as we go along, just pop them in the chat. I always have some. So yeah. Was there something in particular, was it just an opportunity that brought you into finance, or was there something in particular that kind of made you want to make that switch?
I was always interested in construction. My father has a successful construction company in Southport, so I've been brought up around construction. I think I was put on a building site for the first time at 13 years old, and ever since that first introduction to construction, I worked on the sites every half term, Easter, summer and Christmas holidays as well. So it's been part of my DNA since I was born, as it were. So the interest for me has always been there. So I thought, I'd formalize that interest and really drive forward into something that I'm interested in, which was engineering. Being overawed by the complexity of different buildings and structures and big civil projects such as tunnels, and bridges and so on and so forth. So I ventured in that direction. Although I really did enjoy it, and it gave me a greater depth of knowledge of what engineering is and what it continues to be. I just didn't feel like it was the path that I wanted to take. Like I said before, I had an opportunity actually through my sister, funnily enough, who introduced me to an individual who worked at Société Générale, and she thought I would be, a good fit for what he required. So it was 2013 at the time, I had 6 interviews down in London. I was still up north at the time, so commuted to go to these interviews and managed to get the position. So I would say it was probably about 6 months of interviews. So you had to have a lot of tenacity in order to push through those interviews. And I'm sure all of the students at Merchants will come across that in the future. But then, yeah, so like I said, I moved into a strategic role within the bank, an internal strategist, but my real kind of talent and I would say passion was for the front office side. So actually discussing issues with clients, understanding who they are, what they are, who their wider family is, what their ambitions are, what their goals are, where they are today, and how we're going to provide them with a solution to get to where they want to be in the time frame that they want to be there. So it's not just about the numbers and the markets and and that kind of thing. It's actually more about that interpersonal relationship that you share with the individual. Banks are predominantly homogenous, I would say, with regard to products and pricing and performance. There's a bank on every single corner of every single high street. Obviously, private banking's somewhat different, but they're all the same. So what really defines a bank, as it were, is the people that work within those 4 walls and the relationship that you have with those clients or those prospective clients. Just because you're a nice guy or a nice girl to go to lunch with, or have a round of golf with, doesn't really mean that they're going to trust you with what generally is the second most important thing in their lives, apart from family, which is their wealth that they've put their blood, sweat and tears into over their lifetime to be able to generate. So it's about building that relationship, and sometimes it can take a week, it can take a month, it can take a year, it can take 2 years. And everyone's different, so you have to be, I would say, a little bit of a chameleon when it comes to sitting in front of people, because you've got to be able to kind of pick up on different cues and understand people on more of a deeper level, rather than just relying on the more shallower of things.
That's really interesting, because my next question was actually going to be about skills, and that is so interesting that you would assume that working in finance, it's all about the numbers, and actually that's a whole skill set of interpersonal skills and dealing with people. That's something you may not have thought about as something that's quite important for kind of working in your line of work.
Yeah, I would actually say it's probably the most important. Obviously, you've got to know what you're doing, and at the end of the day, you've got to come up with the goods, which is the most important thing. But having the ability to pervade that story is as important as the numbers on the paper in front of you, and being able to communicate in a way that people understand, and like I said before, that chameleon analogy, it's different. Everyone's different, so people take in information in different ways, just like students at school. People are more practical, people are more analytical, people are more book smart, people like to touch and feel things with their hands, they're more tactile. So you've got to understand the person who's sitting in front of you, and also being able to judge a room at the same time. And that runs in line with the more studious area of the job itself, the more analytical area, knowing what's happening in the markets, knowing what your products are, knowing why our products are changing currently with what's happening over between in Russia and the Ukraine, and why we're scaling back, and so on and so forth. So it's a story at the end of the day, but you are in a position in front of your clients to add value. And also, as a private bank, you're there to protect and preserve their wealth as well as growing it. So, you know, it's I would say it's as important having those soft skills as it is of having, you know, those analytical skills as well.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Is there such thing? There almost never is, but what's a normal day like? What's your day to day? What are the sorts of things you have to deal with on a daily basis?
Well, I wouldn't say there's an atypical day. The thing is with banking now, probably different to what it was 20, 30 years ago, is that regulation has increased a lot within banking these days. So you're not sitting in front of your clients all the time. You're not, you know, driving business forward all the time as well. Post 2008, where, you know, banks, there was a lot of mistakes made, and a lot of retail clients, you know, your everyday client were, you know, they were negatively impacted with what happened, you know, during the 2008 crash. The regulations increased tenfold. So what that means now is, you know, it's all for the protection of the consumer with what we do. So everything that we do has to be checked and double checked and thrice checked and four eyes checked, basically, before anything kind of moves forward. So that makes the position that I'm in, I would say, a little bit more challenging when it comes to the administrative side. So there's, you know, there's a fair amount of desk work, you know, putting reports together and so on and so forth. But, you know, I also try and balance that with, you know, being with my clients, my existing clients, prospective clients, and also building my network here in Dubai. So, you know, a normal day might look like getting into the office about 7:30 in the morning. You know, thankfully we're 4 hours in front of the UK here, so we have a 4-hour head start on the day before, you know, emails from the head office start to fly in, which is always nice. So get through emails in the morning. I may have 2 or 3 meetings in the afternoon. They may be on, you know, the platform that we're using here now, Microsoft Teams, or it may be that I go to one of their offices or their home. So, and that can be anywhere in Dubai. Luckily in Dubai, you're only ever 20 minutes away from anywhere, which is nice. You know, and then we also, like I alluded to before, we have our corporate golf membership with Nedbank Private Wealth as well, which is a great way in for me actually to win business and also to maintain business. If I was to have Lisa Connor as a prospective client who's worth $100 million, and I was to ask her, you know, can I have 4 hours of your time today? I'll come into the office, we'll have a 4-hour meeting. You're gonna tell me where to go, and you can have 4 minutes, as it were, most probably. But if I was to say to Lisa Connor, you know, I have a tea time at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. You know, there's going to be champagne in the coolers, maybe some beers if that's what you're into, and we can play a round of golf together. We have 4 hours on a one-to-one basis over 4 hours, where the last thing generally we talk about is business. So that's and that's what I said before. That's generating that relationship, which takes time. But 4 hours one-to-one in a golf cart can act as 4 months of meetings actually, and dinners and coffees and so on and so forth. So it's a bit of a baptism of fire for the prospect or the existing client, but you know, it's a great tool to be able to leverage off for me anyway. And luckily we have the warmth here to be able to do it most of the year round as well.
Yeah, no, I'm there.
Yeah.
sounds great. Is there anything, so looking back to your time at school, is there anything that you think that you kind of really value that you picked up in your time at school, or on the flip side, anything that you wish you had done more of or spent more time of before you left school?
So I think I still say it to this day. I feel very, very fortunate to have gone to Merchant Taylors. It's somewhere that I always wanted to go to. I told my parents at 10 years old, when I was standing underneath the clock tower, watching the first team rugby, which is a family friend's son playing at the time, that I wanted to go to the school. So I really made every effort to enjoy every moment that was there, and took every opportunity with both hands. Whilst I was at school over 7 years, I represented the first 15 at rugby. I was captain of tennis as well. I was in the RAF section in the CCF. At 16 years old, I was awarded a scholarship. I think it was RAF ALSI. So I spent a 10-day course at RAF ALSI as part of the CCF. And at 16 years old, I got my silver wings, so I went solo flying, so I could fly a plane before I could drive a car, and it also provided me with, education second to none, but also confidence, and instilled confidence in me to be part of something which has been around for 400 years, and to go to some of the old boy association meetings and be with, ladies and gents that are, in their 80s and the 90s, and we share something similar. We're part of the same club, as it were. So it's been lovely to carry that on, and actually to be able to do that here today. But with regard to merchants, I don't think I really passed up on any opportunity that was given to me. I think, always, if I was to try and give some advice, I would say do the same. Try not to pass up on any opportunities within school. I think it was 2005. I went over to New Zealand with the rugby team. So we travelled over there with, unfortunately, they're not with us anymore, but Mr. Robinson and Mr. Slemon. And Ian Mackay as well. So, and it was myself, my year and the year above, and we had a phenomenal time over there, traveling from the South Island up to the North Island and across over to Fiji as well. But yeah, some of my fondest memories, throughout life has been, at that school in Crosby, and and they maintain to be fond memories. But it's just a fantastic platform and network to build from, and the name Merchant Taylors does pack quite a lot of clout, as it were, and people recognize the school's name, and it turns heads. So you should be proud to be where you are, and take as much from it as you possibly can.
It's good advice, definitely good advice. And just one thing I thought earlier, when you were talking about your interviews and your application that lasted for 6 months, I would little plug that we have our mentoring network that you are part of, and a lot of our mentors already have spent time helping others when they are going through those sorts of application processes. I know we've had a few examples of people supporting people with internship applications and things like that. So that's a real strength community. I think that we've got a bit of experience that can be shared if you're looking at these things, and can be a bit daunting, but we've got people who can help. So
yeah, of course. And I have no problem in approaching Nedbank Private Wealth, which have an office in London as well, and looking to see if we can provide some kind of internship, over the summer, whether it be shadowing different parts of the bank, credit or front office or risk or compliance or whatever is interesting to the respective student, merchant student. But it will be a pleasure to be able to drive that forward and become a champion of that internship within Nedbank Private Wealth as well. So if that's something that somebody would like to look into, just let me know.
Great, thank you. That's fantastic and very much appreciated. We've got a question here. If I was to consider banking as a career, what A-level subjects do you think would be useful, and what university course might be suitable?
Well, I'm maybe not the right person to ask, because my degree is actually in construction engineering, but my A-levels were actually in maths and physics and design and an AS in PE. Listen, I know you'll have heard this before, but do what you enjoy. I would say, I never did finance, I never did economics when I was going through school. I had a keen interest in mathematics, but it's unless you're going into more of an analytical employment, there are banking exams that you will have to do anyway following your university degree. So what I would say, the most important thing is, if you're looking to go into banking, is network. Actually, get in and try and do an internship. Try and do 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks at a bank. Even if you can take a bit of time off following your degree, and a lot of these internships are unpaid now, unfortunately. But they are worth their weight in gold, because generally, if you perform well in these internships, you'll always guarantee to get a job offer at the end. So it's more about you're showing the ability that you have, rather than the piece of paper which you can walk in with regard to a degree. Well, personally, I would say, obviously, it matters what kind of degree it is. If it's going to be something extremely light, it might not be looked upon as fondly as something which is a little bit more core. But I would say that start early. And we have a great platform now called LinkedIn, and you can increase your visibility there. Just get in touch with people, reach out, have that tenacity, and be optimistic, and I'm sure it will come your way. But also at the same time, I'd be happy to sit down and have a couple of sessions, conversations with anybody, and help them in any way that I can. I have a lot of contacts within the banking industry in London, which I would happily make introductions to as well. And we can look at resumes, we can look at interview techniques, and in order to get you to where you want to be.
Great, thank you so much. And again, just so useful. I think really practical tip there, things you can be doing now. Definitely have a look at LinkedIn. I would reiterate that. So those of you that are in the sixth form, you will get sessions on LinkedIn specifically to kind of help you with that. And when you're in the upper sixth, you're actually invited to join. We have a closed alumni network, and you're able to kind of join that, and we can connect you with people that way. But it's a very good way of just getting a bit of a toe in the water and having a look at some interesting content. There might be podcasts and things that you can pick up on, there might be articles and things that you can read, so it's a really good way to just kind of have your finger on the pulse a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
So that is really helpful. I did have another question, which was, what's it? So you have touched on what it's like kind of living and working abroad. Was that a particular ambition, or is that just how it's evolved for you?
I think it was an ambition in the back of my head. I went over it quite quickly before, but I did spend 2 years in Los Angeles. I'm not knowing anybody in Los Angeles prior to going over there, not knowing anyone in the university that I attended. So it takes a lot of I would say effort to go into a new place and be able to derive a new friend set and establish yourself somewhere else. But it's something that I've always enjoyed doing. So it's not something that has been, I would say, too challenging. When I was in London, I always, I covered, part of my book covered the Middle East as well. At the time, my other sister was living in Dubai, so I had visited Dubai prior. Yeah, and I did like the idea of it, but getting over here seemed, not impossible, but very challenging if you haven't got your feet on the ground. Now, it was, again, an interesting introduction to Dubai. One of my good friends who is over here, who's a local family member, actually, is an Emirati, was completing his MBA at London Business School, and one of his peers was my now boss. And my boss had asked Mo, does he know of any private bankers that would potentially like to, move to Dubai? So Mo got in touch with me, and that's how it worked out. So it worked out as it was supposed to work out. Sometimes these things happen, but at the same time, you're never really off parade. So you've always got to act with integrity everywhere that you go. Dubai, I like to say, Dubai has not just got, the walls haven't just got ears, they've got eyes and mouths as well. So, there's only 3 million people that live here in Dubai. There's 10 million people that live across the UAE. So you've got to act with integrity, always be on your best behavior, because if you're not, it will ruin you very, very quickly. And that's so that when I got over here, obviously I came over here on a recce with Nedbank, and then came back. I was made a job offer, and I moved over in August of 2018, and very quickly settled in. I think it's something that was instilled in me at Merchants, is that there's always ways and means to create different circles. Mine is predominantly through sport. So over here, I do a lot of cycling. I play paddle tennis and tennis and golf. So and other sports as well. So they've been a great means to be able to meet like-minded people, and make this more of a home rather than just somewhere that I'm going to be for a finite amount of time.
Yeah, no, again, that's good advice. It's a good way to get into new people and networks. And again, just reiterating how important the network is. And I would say I've never experienced such a strong network as the Merchants network. So just it's another kind of reference to that resource that is available to everyone, that there are people everywhere who want to help and who are keen to do that. So it's worth maintaining your network.
Yes.
So just to finish off, I would say what's the best thing about your job, and is there a worst?
The best thing will definitely be, for me, seeing a client's goals and ambitions realized and being part of that journey from infancy all the way to completion. The thing is, there's no real completion when it comes to private banking, because a trait that people look for within their private banker is longevity. And that's why you see clients moving with bankers from bank to bank. So it's I would say that's probably the highlight of my employment, when I am able to take a client from where they are to where they want to be, and what that generally crystallizes in is referral business. So I would say 80% of my business now is all referred, which says to me that I do a good job by the people that I serve, and the performance is always in line with what their expectations are. With regard to bad part of my job, I think we all have challenges, day-to-day challenges. There's no overarching issue, as it were, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I'm very, very happy. I think if I could spend more time with my clients, that would be better. I touched upon it before that, the regulatory side of things now has really ramped up, which is at the end of the day in the best interests of the clients. So, it's all there for protection. So completely understand why it is. But yeah, I mean, the more time that I can spend with my clients and my prospective clients, the better.
Yeah, the report writing's got to not be fun all the time.
Absolutely not. No, it's not one of my fortes.
No, well, yes, as you say, in everything there are parts that you love and parts that are a little bit more challenging. So
Of course.
Well, thank you so much.